resolutions. So if you set resolutions, I want you to take those resolutions, state them as a SMART goal, then figure out what are the rocks, what are the big milestones, the big projects, the big things you've got to get done to reach that, and then create the tasks. And when you do that, things will be much easier.
Welcome to the Online Genius Podcast, where host and renegade-thinking beer-brewing lawyer turned online entrepreneur Bobby Klink proves that building and protecting your online genius doesn't have to be rocket science. Bobby and his expert guests break down online marketing and the legal stuff so you can stop sweating the small stuff and get back to building your amazing business. Now, here's your host, Bobby Klink.
Hey there. Welcome to episode 122 of the Online Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Klink, and I'm excited because welcome to 2020. It's a new year, it's a new decade, it's a lot of fun. And so I'm excited for this year. I've got a lot of interesting, fun stuff in store for the year, and I hope you do too. And this episode, this Foundations Friday episode, is a very, very New Year's targeted episode. Now, next Tuesday, I'm going to share with you my plan for 2020, what my business plans are, kind of what I'm intending, what I have set out for myself and for my team. But today, it's a Foundations Friday, so I can't possibly do all that. But I'm going to give you some tough love. And I'm going to tell you, I don't set New Year's resolutions, and you shouldn't either. But I'm going to tell you what you should do instead. So I want to talk about it. Now, I could probably rattle off some fancy statistics about how less than 5% of New Year's resolutions make it past February. Now, I don't know if that's an actual stat, but it's probably accurate. I mean, it's probably somewhere in that range. And I believe that there is a reason for that. It's because a resolution is meaningless. A resolution is simply saying, here's my goal. Well, if you say, here's my goal, in spite of what some people have, said, the law of attraction and manifesting and all that, the people who understand that stuff recognize that you don't manifest a goal by saying, here's my goal, I'm going to do this. You can't do that. I mean, you've got to actually do some work. And the problem is if you set a resolution, a typical resolution is simply something like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And that's it. I mean, that's all people say. Or I'm going to make $1 million this year. And that's it. They don't say anything else. Well, that's great. I'm glad you have a goal. But if you don't have a plan of attack for how you're going to reach that goal, and you don't have a plan of attack that's reasonable and that is actually structured to actually help you reach that goal, guess what? You are not going to reach it. And when you don't make any progress because you didn't have a plan, you're going to give up on it by, say, February. So setting resolutions is dumb. Now, with all that said, here's what I do want to say. I set goals every single year. But if I'm going to take the time to set a goal, I'm going to take the time to actually create a plan to achieve that goal. And so that's what I'm going to encourage you to do instead. Now, if you set some resolutions and you're sitting there saying, Bobby said I shouldn't have done that, it's okay. We can still salvage things. I want you to take those resolutions and you're going to do what I'm going to walk you through here with what you should do instead. If you have a goal, you need to break it down and create a plan for how you're going to reach that goal. And there is a lot of planning books out there, and I've read lots of them, and they use different language, but at the end of the day, what every single one of them is teaching you to do is to chunk it down. In other words, you need to say, okay, if this is my goal, what are some milestones? What are some things like some sub-goals I need to reach within there? And those should be things that are in themselves maybe kind of you can look at and say, okay, is this something that I can get done? you're going to start by taking your resolution or taking your goal and figuring out what are the big projects or the big rocks, is what most people in the entrepreneurship space will call them. What are the big rocks that you need to achieve, that you need to be doing to actually reach that goal? And so you'll start by setting those rocks. Most people will tell you that you should have about 3 rocks per goal. And if you're doing planning, you should probably also, to do it best, you should do quarterly rocks that you're going to focus on. But the notion is if you have 57 goals, you're not going to achieve them. You need to have these things that say, okay, if I want to lose weight, I've got to set some rocks. So for a weight loss goal or resolution, for example, the first rock might be related to your diet. You need to improve your diet somehow. And you're not going to say, I'm going to improve my diet. You would be very specific on it. You might say, I'm going to use the Weight Watchers diet, although I gather now it's just WW, but you get the point. You pick one and say, I am going to employ this and I'm going to do that. And so that would be your first rock. Your second rock should be something about exercise, because if you want to lose weight, you got to watch what you eat and you got to get in better shape. And so then your second rock might be that you are going to, it could be something like a cardio plan, it could be a weightlifting plan, whatever it is, you're going to pick those things and say, okay, what is the second rock? And so your rock might be, I will work out 5 times a day, or it might be, I will work out 7 hours a week, or whatever the number is you do, but you set that as a rock. And so you do that, and then you break down your rocks. You don't stop at the rocks. You actually go a level deeper, and that's where you create your tasks. And you say, okay, to reach this rock, what do I need to do? How do I need to do it? And what I tell people is be specific, just to give you a sense so that you have an idea of what this looks like. I, in my business, have set a revenue target. I have 3 goals within that will, in my view, help me reach that target. And I will walk through all of those next week on next Tuesday's episode. And then each one of those goals has 3 rocks, and each one of those rocks has a task list. To give you a sense of how long my plan is, it's, I think, 15 pages long. And I'm talking about single space, tasks. Like, some of the tasks are literally things like create a zap, because it's not all me, this is me and my team, but it's like create a zap between Bucket.io and Kartra. I mean, I'm down to that level of specificity. Now, some of them are, figure out the hook for this thing. Some of them is create the freebie, right? So that is obviously a bigger task. And then some of them are smaller tasks. But the point is that by breaking your goal down into rocks and then into tasks, and you'll hear me, I kind of talked about this on the last episode of 2019. On Tuesday's episode, I talked about one of the lessons that one of the people in my community said that she had learned was that if you create a plan, it gets rid of the stress. Well, the same thing's happening here, right? If you create your goal, if you create your rocks and you create your tasks, week to week and day to day, you don't have to think about it. You're like, okay, what do I need to do? You go to your master plan list and you say, okay, well, I've done these. What's next on the list? Aha, so here it is. And you plug those in. And then if you accomplish those tasks in a week, you know that you have moved the ball forward towards your ultimate goal. And that is the kind of progress you need to be making. And so what I'm telling you is that don't say, I want to lose 20 pounds. We've all heard about SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. That's great. And yes, you should set a SMART goal. My goals, I've got 3 of them for the business that I will talk about next week on next Tuesday's episode, that I believe are all going to feed into my revenue number, kind of my revenue target for the year. And each one of them is all of those things. Now, in those cases, they're time-bound because they are by the end of the year. But you might set other sub-goals that are time-bound in a shorter period. But I might meet all that SMART goal. But if all I had done was that, then I wouldn't have made much progress, because those are like, okay, great. So you're going to have this many members, or you're going to do this much in monthly sales, and all that's great, but you need a plan to how to do it. And you create that plan by breaking those goals down into rocks and then creating the tasks. If you will do that work, if you will go through that process, then it's just a matter of, looking at your list and doing it. Now, that doesn't guarantee you're going to do it, because let's be honest, you could, get tired of doing it, and plans may change in the year, and that's okay. But what I'm going to encourage you to do, and I'm encouraging you to do this in every aspect that you're setting goals or resolutions. So if you set resolutions, I want you to take those resolutions, state them as a SMART goal, then figure out what are the rocks, what are the big milestones, the big projects, the big things you've got to get done to reach that, and then create the tasks. And when you do that, things will be much easier. And look, let's be honest, for a like fitness goal, this will often be much simpler, right? Because, you can find guidance on how to run a marathon. Like, let's say that was one of your goals. I'm going to run a marathon this year. Or that's one of your rocks, maybe within an overall fitness goal. And so if that's it, it's, hey, I got to find a plan. I got to execute the plan, right? And kind of that's it. And so, it's not that hard. For a goal like that, it's a matter of doing it. But for a lot of the goals we deal with, the problem is we don't have a plan in place. And so have a plan in place. And if it's a place where you've tried in the past and failed, have a plan of how you're going to deal with obstacles. If you'll put that into your plan, you will be much more effective. So that's it. That's this lesson. Don't set resolutions. Resolutions are dumb. Create goals, break them into rocks, and then create tasks. If you do that, you are much more likely to persist beyond February. So that's it for this episode of the Online Genius Podcast. I'll see you next Tuesday. And in next Tuesday's episode, I'm going to lay out my plan for 2020. You will hear my 3 goals, and this is my business plan. You'll hear my 3 goals, the 3 rocks that I have for each, and some detail about why I chose those and some other things I've got going on. So I'll see you then, but in the meantime, go create your goals, your rocks, and your tasks. Talk later.
Thanks for listening to the Online Genius Podcast. Make sure to tune in next week for more great tips, tricks, and strategies to help you build and protect your online genius.